Aujourd'hui, je vais te parler de what I think about Street Fighter 6. I'm nearly 100 hours or so into it. Ayo, Zebbuck here. So I've been a fighting game fan and has been for a very long time. For as long as I've been a video game fan, really. Okay, so my first love of the fighting game was Street Fighter 2 back in the arcades, and I've had it on a home console and obsessed over it ever since. Okay, and the latest Street Fighter came out last year, but I did not get the game until this past month, and that is Street Fighter 6. Why did I wait for a year? I mean, that's just life, isn't it? Even for a habit that's given me great nostalgia and fantastic memories for over 30 years, you know, my life has changed a bit, and along with it, priorities. So last year, I just didn't feel like I wanted to start that latest trek into a numbered entry this series, right? I knew once I bought it, oh boy, this type of game tends to dominate my life, and I'm into it. Right? I love fighting games, this series so much that I barely even alternate with other games when I'm playing a fighting game. So that's probably why I waited, and that and my main character from the last game did not quite make this game's roster, and that's Mika, and I was waiting to see whether she would make the DLC or not. But now, you know, 1 whole year later, Season 2's announcement has already come out, and she didn't make it. That's okay. Not a deal breaker. I just bought the game anyway. So today I'm going to tell you whether this newest entry of the game is worth it for me. I'm just some dude on the internet who's been playing fighting games moderately competently since the 90s, so this review is just a series of impressions, not a detailed breakdown. I'm not a good enough player to teach anybody else how to play fighting games. Those can be found easily on the internet, on YouTube, really. You just Google those, right? So, but still, there are lots of things in the game that has generally surprised and delighted me, so that's why I have the urge to talk about this, right? Anyway, if you enjoy some random rants from a dude with clearly no production skills, like, subscribe, share, comment, or whatever, right? I'll be fine regardless, because I just do these for funsies. Hit that bell icon wherever it is. There will be no cool graphics in this clip whatsoever because visual stimuli are overrated. Okay, so first I gotta describe the three main modes of the game. That is World Tour, Battle Hub, and Fighting Ground. I have not spent any time in Battle Hub, so I'm gonna ignore that. We're gonna start with talking about Fighting Ground, which is basically how any old previous generation fighting game veterans would recognize a fighting game, right? For me, Fighting Ground as a mode already feels like one whole complete game. Within this mode, there's an arcade mode where you've got character-specific endings, and you've got your online matchmaking for casual or ranked matches, and a very robust training mode for those of you who have much more patience than me. If you want to learn the intricacies and practice against the AI in terms of the new game's mechanics, right? I just prefer to just winging it, and I've never used any of or nearly all of the options in training mode, so I'll leave those notes to the pro gamers. I mean, I said I've already spent almost 100 hours in this game in the first couple of weeks, and the majority of that time is definitely just in fighting people in ranked and casual matches. That is how fun this game is. I only win around maybe half of my matches, and I would call that matchmaking system very decent, right? And I basically only want to stop playing when my thumb starts to hurt from, you know, all the controller turning, okay? Now, Fighting Ground even has a new mode called something like Extreme Battles, so you can add conditions to a fight that makes a Street Fighter 2 folks into even more like a gimmicky mini-game type of matchup. So yeah, immediately I thought this was a great start, okay? I could live in just Fighting Ground, so what else do I need, right? And that's when I tried World Tour mode. This is the big single-player experience that is new to Street Fighter 6, right? Frankly, I did not realize that I could enjoy a single-player experience in a fighting game as much as I did in this mode. I mean, it just feels like an action RPG, kind of, right? I mean, the action itself, it's still primarily one-on-one fights, but because in World Tour mode, movesets in all the random NPCs you encounter can be a mix of any of these Street Fighter mainstays. So there's always like an element of surprise when I fight any other AI character as to what move they can just pull out, okay? Not to mention, boy, sometimes you do have to fight waves of enemies, like in Final Fight, and sometimes even against what looks like Roomba robots or drones or refrigerators. That's right, you fight a refrigerator. It sounds absurd, but it is real and kind of hilarious, okay? Now, I guess the best way I can describe the appeal of World Tour mode is that it feels kind of like a Street Fighter RPG where your created avatar progression feels like a remixed version of the main game. Sure, your basic moves has to mirror one of the Street Fighter 6's mainstays, but your special and super attacks can be tailored and mixed to your heart's content. I mean, having been a longtime fan, this possibility is just bonkers to me. I mean, I cannot tell you what a dream it is to be able to throw a sonic boom, but then anti-air with a dragon punch, only to teleport behind the other guy and do a spinning pile driver. It's like the stuff of my childhood dreams, right? So kudos to Capcom for making this happen. This is truly a delight. Now, of course, the staying power of any fighting game has to do with the fact that you connect with its characters, right? Here, I think Capcom again made characters that you can compete with really, really well, right? Within my 100 hours, this is how much I love the design of the characters. Okay, I'm still not sure who my main or secondary should be. I started my rank journey with some of the old mainstays from Street Fighter history. Tengi, who's the archetypical grappler, and Guile, he was my original main Street Fighter 2. They both feel fine, and their game plans are pretty similar to what they were even back in Street Fighter 2, right? But soon I tried some of the newer Street Fighter 6 design characters, right? So far, for me, in the running for my new main are JP. He's like a arrogant, old, fat cat type of guy. He's the villain of the game who just oozes pompous vainglory, right? And can outzone even Thousand and Guile. There's Jamie, who's kind of like the new rival type of character, who's definitely not drinking liquor, okay, out of his gourd, even though his whole fighting style is drunken kung fu, so he's got a lot of swag. And Lily, a little Mexican girl who can soar through the air, but also do massive damage via her own 360 style land grab, right? They all play differently, and yet I can't stop wanting to rotate between them. Right? I definitely need to adjust to these new characters' game plans, but still, I never feel like I don't have options, right? Even when I lose, right? Which is often, like I mentioned. I'm always reminded that it's actually mostly because I forgot what options that I had on hand or I couldn't react, rather than due to the limits of who I pick. So I would call this very well balanced design. So, in conclusion, I don't think it's a surprise that I would endorse buying this game if you are any kind of fighting game fan at all. To be honest, I would probably recommend this game to someone who's never played a fighting game at all, simply due to World Tour mode, right? I was recommending this game to a friend of mine, and I just said World Tour mode is basically like a 30-hour tutorial, okay, right? It's not hard, but it is a bit of a grind. But like I said, a fun kind of grind because it is very RPG-like, right? But at its heart, Street Fighter is not an RPG, right? It is a fighting game to be played between two humans. I'm just glad that the game is relatively new still, and right now the player base is immense. It's super easy to find matches of equally mediocre level as me, right? I even reserve the right to come back and write about this game later, at a later date, because rarely have I played a game that even at about 100 hours in, I feel like I've just hit the tip of the iceberg. How's that for them? Cheers, a la prochaine.